Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I could say good night, actually, but today I wanted to make a video maybe a little bit different. I want to talk about failure. I want to talk about failure and why failure is absolutely key to us becoming the people we are meant to become and why it's key for us to grow. Um, I know that the common conception of failure is that, well, it's failure. It's negative. It means that something did not go right. It means that the desired outcome was not attained. Um, I'm going to discuss why I feel like having that mindset on failure is an absolute detriment. From somebody who has failed a lot and who has had to get back up and fight again, I do know that I have turned into a very resilient son of a bitch. Failure does breed resilience. When you fail, you learn to get back up and you learn to try again. If you don't, then you just wither away and die. Every single one of us fails, and every single one of us has to at some point get back up and try again. And what happens when you get back up and try again? It doesn't hurt as much when it happens the next time. It's just like conditioning. It also, helps us. It gives us feedback on what it is that we're trying to accomplish. Every try that has failed is another route doesn't work to achieve what you're trying to achieve. Analyzing what has gone wrong can allow us to eliminate another option that we know doesn't work and work towards the option that might end up getting it done. If there's another thing I know about failure is there's nothing quite as humbling as failing. That is one of the most humbling things that we as people can go through is going into something with confidence and failing, realizing that no, maybe we didn't have everything as figured out as we thought we did. But being able to accept this, understand that this doesn't mean that you have to give up and stop trying. Just understand that this means that you need more practice, work, or knowledge on the subject matter. This allows us to be able to accept negativity in our lives as well as be able to overcome it. And, enough failing and enough of not succeeding at what you're trying to do is going to eventually light a fire under your ass, if it hasn't already, to want to continue to grow and get better, also by knocking our heads, it helps us, kind of see a little more clearly what we want. Sometimes when we set goals for ourselves, we don't really see all the bumps in the road that might arise until we hit the first one. And then we don't even know that there's a second one until we hit the second one. And hitting each of those bumps kind of helps us refine our approach a little more each time that we hit one. And obviously having to do something over and over again, having to experience something over and over again, like failure, kind of builds you. I wouldn't say you grow callous. You get used to the feeling. Getting punched in the face hurts less the second time. I guess unless it's a bigger guy. But the more you get hit in one spot, the easier it is to take that hit. And what I'm saying through that is failure helps us learn to take risks and be comfortable taking risks. And, it can only be so bad. It can only... The negative result can only be so negative. And there's only so much that it's going to affect you. After going through it enough times, it's not going to phase you the way it used to. In fact, for me, it's going to become pretty obvious that every failure that we have is a lesson. It's something that can teach us. And I think that failure also helps promote um, emotional intelligence, because it helps you become more in tune with your own feelings. You don't really have a choice. Failure is not a feeling that feels good. These are feelings that you have to address, but it also helps you kind of become more empathic, I think, to people who are struggling, because you yourself are struggling. You don't have a choice but to kind of understand where they're coming from. But I think that my favorite part, or favorite thing about failure, is that it makes every time you succeed that much sweeter. And I'm not saying that you should strive to be a failure, strive to not achieve what you set out to achieve, but these are just examples. First, I wanted to go over as to why I believe failure is actually more of a positive thing than we kind of frame it as a society. Failure is one of the biggest opportunities for growth that we have as people, and we, luckily get to see it pretty often. And I used to have this jaded perception of failure, and it took a lot of bumping my head, doing and quitting a lot of drugs, making a lot of stupid decisions, and trying to bounce back from them and failing to bounce back from them, to learn how to reframe it. And that's essentially how, I've kind of changed my perception on failure, is a whole lot of reframing, which is, I feel like how we change a lot of how we feel about things in our lives, right? The first biggest way that I try to look at failure is as a learning opportunity. It's a chance to learn the mistake you made and how to not make it again. And even if you don't learn that, there's information that can be taken from each failure that is useful towards achieving whatever goal you're setting out to achieve every time you fail. Unless you just stumble into the realm of insanity where you're trying the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And doing this enough time, I feel like when you can get to a point where you reframe failure as a chance to learn, your overall mindset becomes more willing and geared towards growth and learning. And it allows you to see things like failures and negatives as opportunities to grow and opportunities to learn. Like negative things that happens in our lives can be reframed as lessons all the time. And, it helps you kind of see differently, not necessarily the outcome as much as the effort that we put into something, right? We're able to kind of understand that we did what we could, and maybe this time it wasn't enough, or maybe this time it was more than enough, but we know the effort that we put in. It's easier to see and feel that because we've been made painfully aware in the past of when our effort wasn't enough. And after you have to reframe failures enough, you start to learn to give yourself victories for, give yourselves pats on the back for the small victories, right? Like, how much effort did you put into something? And, I feel like this has also helped me a lot with being easier on myself. I've historically been someone who's very, very hard on myself when things don't go my way, or when I, slip up and I make things not go my way. Understanding that failures are a natural part of life, and that, we actually need failures to help us learn. It kind of helps you learn to love yourself and give yourself, a little more sympathy, I guess. Not really sympathy. I think that's a bad word to use when it comes to talking about what you do for yourself. But allow yourself a little bit more of a break instead of stepping all over yourself for not meeting that goal when you expected to meet it. Knowing our limitations, right, as well. helps us also set realistic expectations. Expectations are the biggest way we disappoint ourselves as people. Is we set our expectations too high, not just for ourselves, but for other people, for other instances, other things. Expectations, in my eyes, have always just been like disappointments waiting to happen, right? So we want to try and make our expectations as realistic as possible. And another great thing about, or another way that I kind of try to reframe failure in my mind is look at it as it's another step in the process, right? It's another step towards becoming completely knowledgeable in what it is you're trying to learn, or becoming, essentially a master in what it is you're trying to learn. And I've been very fortunate in my life to where I do have a very solid circle of very resilient people who aren't averse to failure, people who aren't afraid to try and fail, people who have become very successful through doing so. I myself have succeeded in a lot of ways I never thought was possible, and it took a lot of bumping my head on the way up to do it. Even, at my most successful that I've been, which, had a rehab trip come after, so, I mean, we all bump our heads, we all fail. And it's important to, I think this is also kind of a very big way that I've been able to help reframe it, is looking back at the past failures that we've had and playing the tape through and seeing how those situations ended up in the end. Because we're still here today, right? We're still breathing, we're still alive. We made it through the failures. Even if that scenario never panned out the way we wanted, wasn't the end of the world, wasn't the end of our lives. We made it through. And being able to look back on that and understand that none of these things are the end of the world makes it a lot easier to swallow when the time comes. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of all I have for this, and I guess I'll just leave it with this. Failure is an unavoidable part of life, and can be one of the huge biggest proponents for growth that we have. And to be able to change how you perceive failure and be able to embrace it, it opens you up to new possibilities, and makes us more resilient, it puts us in a better frame of mind for improvement. There's no path on this planet for any person that is completely full of success. There is a setback along every way. Along every way there is a setback, whether it be big, small, doesn't matter. There are setbacks, and we move past them. I don't know. I had a conversation with a friend today who, I'm not going to put all his business out there, but had a test he was supposed to take to finish his program that he's working on, failed it, and has been held back another 6 months, and or will be held back another 6 months, essentially. And it kind of inspired me to make this, because it reminded me of how difficult I used to deal with failure, because he's beat the hell up. Well, we had a long conversation, and he's always been pretty smart about how to deal with certain things, to understand that this isn't the end of the world. It's not like he's been kicked out. He still has every opportunity. It's just going to be a little bit later. And you know what? You learn not to fucking take so long to do things that you need to do when you're supposed to fucking do them. And that's a fucking lesson. That's something positive to take away from this. I guarantee you, next time around, that shit ain't going to happen. Because he's going to remember how difficult this was. And that right there is a prime example of why failure is so key to our growth and key to us becoming successful. And that's also why we need to learn how to be okay with it and reframe it, see it in a different light. I hope you guys found this useful, enjoyed this at all. I know it might be a little different than what we're used to, but let me know what you think down below. If you liked it, like it. Give me your perception on this. If you want to tell me to go fuck myself, please do. It's fine with me. But I hope y'all having a wonderful evening, and I hope y'all have a wonderful week, and I hope y'all have a wonderful weekend. Bye.